All right, here's what I've learned after almost 18 years of coaching and training agents. Now, the big difference in my early career of coaching and training agents was I was either a principal broker or I was director of sales. And that's just different when you come into a team and then you have to listen to somebody, and it's more of a management system. What I've been able to do the last 3 years is where people are picking me, and it's a world of difference in most people because you don't like to be told what to do. And you don't like to be managed. People say, I don't like to be micromanaged. But when you're coming to me, you want accountability, you want guidance, you want my expertise, you want that different perspective. And while those are both different, there's been common threads. And I want to talk about those common threads because whether you're an agent, whether you're a struggling agent, whether you're thinking about becoming an agent, I think there's some things in here that can help you. If you cannot execute on the actions, the strategies, the plans, you're not going to get far. And too often, we're waiting for the motivation before we have the action. The problem is motivation is just a form of emotion, and emotions go up and down. And waiting for that to kick in isn't going to happen. Action precedes motivation in most cases. You'll find once you start making calls, it's easier to make calls. Once you've knocked on the first door, it's easy to knock on doors. Once you've talked to the first person at a networking event, and so on and so on. That ability to execute. You are not going to think yourself into real estate. You're going to have to act. Now, I am an overthinker, so I completely get this, but you're not going to just think it into existence. You're not going to think of the best plan. You have to act it out and adjust as you go. If you change anything, your ability to execute will have huge effect on your real estate career. Probably the next thing is most agents, when they get into real estate, say, oh, I want to make $100,000, which is a great number, and it's arbitrary. Any round number, if you've heard my negotiation videos, you know that the round numbers are just arbitrary and they don't mean anything. And eventually, once we were starting talking to agents, hiring for the team, what I did is I started saying, well, what if you made 97? Would that be okay? They said, oh yeah. What if you made 94? What about 90? What about 80? And I started going down until I could hit a number. And that 100 was just a pie in the sky, and they wanted to sound good. They're probably telling their spouse or partner, hey, I'm going to get in there and make $100,000, or that's what kept them going for the test. But the truth is, if you came from a job and you were making much, much less, you may not have the habits to go make $100,000 or more because you're not used to doing the things. The $100,000 is such a random number, truly. It sounds good. Why isn't it 115? Why isn't it 117, 350, whatever it is? So the more real you can make that number and what it will do for your life instead of just sounding good, you have a better shot at being compelled towards that vision. And I think that's a big part of it, is having a compelling vision of why you're going to push forward. That's why they talk about, follow your passion and all these things, is because, well, if you're passionate about something, you'll do the hard work. You're going to push through because you're really, really compelled. If you're only sort of compelled and you only sort of want to make $100,000, you sort of want to do that, you're probably not going to do the things because it's this weird real estate math. You see, well, hey, look, if the average house is $400,000 or $500,000, if I sell 10 of those, that's $100,000. Oh, you just look at the small 10, not seeing how many people you have to talk to, how many deals are going to fall through, how many offers you have to write, all these things. It's weird math that we can do. Forget about the 100,000. How many homes are you going to close? How many people are you going to talk to get there? Those are the numbers you really need to have. And so the goal should probably be bigger so you can see a more compelling vision. Like if you think you're going to make $500,000, maybe you'll work a little bit harder. Maybe you'll call more people. Maybe you'll send a better newsletter. Maybe you'll do better videos. Maybe you'll do whatever, but you'll do it at a higher level. Because what happens is we're trying to make $1 million with $10 habits. And that's where it really falls apart. This next one is a biggie. And this is usually one of the top 2 reasons someone says they want to get into real estate is they want to be their own boss. No, you don't. You don't want a boss is the problem. And the thing is you don't want a boss and you don't want to boss yourself around and you're not going to get much done. And that's true for 85% of agents. It really is because that's what percentage fall out. And most of them don't want a boss. And that is such an easy goal to hit. That's the problem. It's the easiest goal you could ever hit. Get in real estate, you have no boss. You won. You hit your goal. And that's where it all falls apart. Not having accountability, not having someone to go, hey, you know that thing you said you're going to do, did you do it? That's where it gets really, really hard. And this is where you need a mentor, accountability partner, a coach, principal, somebody to remind you when you aren't doing the things you need to execute on. Now, if you're executing on everything fantastic, this isn't your issue. But the problem with your goals, the real reason you do anything is what you're going to get out of it. And if you're really getting into this to get away from bosses, you're not going to do well. So plain and simple. The next thing is a clouded mind does nothing. This is true for you. This is true for your clients. If your clients are scared about, interest rates, or they don't know which neighborhood they want to be in, they're not going to move forward. If you don't have a clear plan, if you don't have clear strategies, it's going to be harder for you to move forward. And real estate is very, very confusing. You could do door knocking, you could do calls, you could do paid ads, you could do networking, you could do social media, you can do webinars, you could do home buyer conferences, you could do all these things. They all work, but they don't all work at the same time. You have to pick one or two. You can't do them all. All this dabbling in it, you're not doing it at a high level. So if you're doing an open house with 3 signs instead of 8 or 12, you're not going to do as well. And that's what happens when you're trying to do all the things, you're not doing them at a high level. So if you're doing an open house really well, you're door knocking, you're sending an email to your clients or your friends that live in the area, you have a lender that you've told them about, you've told your title partner, whoever else, maybe you have your lender come to the open house with you. Maybe you send out postcards to the neighborhood. You're spending 45 minutes putting out 20 signs. You're doing all these things. And once you pick your path, if you do these things at a high level, they're more likely to work instead of doing, 2 signs, nobody showed up. I went to networking, no one came up to talk to me, I left, nothing happened. It's really understanding the clarity of what you're doing. And that's where it'll be easier to execute. This one actually surprised me. Now, there's a lot of charismatic people who get into real estate. They have charisma, they have talent, and then they stop there. And they think that they don't have to go do the other things. And I've seen some great people that I thought were going to kill it just because they knew so many people. They had the infectious smile, they had really good with people, but then it just fell apart. They didn't know how to do the next steps, and they didn't really want to learn because they just felt so confident. Now, there is a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect where people get into real estate and they're so sure that they know everything and they know nothing. And then they fall back down in their confidence and then it just all kind of falls apart. And if they'd known how hard it was, they wouldn't have got into it. I'm very lucky in that when I got into real estate, I was an assistant for a year before I got into it. And so I knew the contracts, I knew how to do a CMA, I knew the prices really well. I even, on my first listing appointment, I was like, I'm going to get nervous. I was driving there almost trying to talk myself into it. And I wasn't nervous because I knew the market so well. I knew how everything worked. I knew the process. Most people get into it knowing nothing. And there's such a wide, it's like learning a new language, really. Imagine you just did an immersion course in a foreign language that had different characters and everything that you're used to. It would be very, very hard. And so what happens to the people who do not put the time in to overcome their deficiencies, or they get overwhelmed by just how far behind they are, that's, I think, where a lot of washout happens as well. So the more you can learn ahead of time, if you're thinking about getting into real estate, what I really suggest is learning as much as you can. Go and sign up for as many newsletters of agents in any area so you can see how they prospect. Try to get a hold of some contracts so you can learn those contracts. Start looking on Zillow and Redfin and coming up with your own idea of what prices can be. Don't trust Zillow or Redfin or anyone's prices, that the automated prices. It's just an algorithm. There's much more to it than that. That's a whole nother video. Your talent and natural abilities are only going to get you so far. There's going to have to be hard work. Goes back to that first one, which is executing on everything. You're going to have to do some work. You are not going to make 100, 200, 300,000, whatever it is you're trying to make, if you're not willing to do hard work. This business is very, very difficult. I think those are the big things. The last one I'm going to leave you with is what I've realized in this, I actually saw this as director of sales too, but I've seen it more here, is people come to me when it's too late. When they've run out of money, when they've run out of resources, and they're looking for a lifeline, anything to keep them going. And they're just unable to, now they just don't have the resources to execute. It really comes down to time quite often. They just don't have the time now. They've had to take on another job and trying to squeeze it in. The part-time agents, I have a lot of I have a lot of love for the part-time agents trying to jump into it full time, but what I find is they're not really honest about their own time that they have available. They look at like this perfect world. They're like, well, I work 8 hours and I sleep 6 hours, so I've got this much time left. No, you don't. You've got doctor's appointments, you've got kids, you've got sleep, you've got eating, you've got errands, you've got all these other things, and it almost never works out. And so you need to get help before it's too late. Once you see signs of an issue, you don't want the bridge to fall. You see cracks on the bridge, you go get someone out there to work on it. You don't wait for the bridge right before it crumbles, go, hey guys, let's fix this. If you need help, I'm really bad at really pushing for myself, but get a coach or get a mentor, get an accountability partner, go find someone to help you. Because once you've crossed this threshold, it's kind of like there's no turning back. And that's what I've seen. I've had people on my team like checking in with them every week. How's it going? How's it going? Everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's like, I can't do it. I mean, it was a complete 180 where I had no signs that this was happening. Like, I can't do it. I'm out of money. I got this and that. I went and found a job. Real estate's not for everybody. This is super hard. TikTok and TV make it look super easy. You've got a bunch of people with their ads out there making real estate look easy. It is hard, and it should be. You're doing an amazing service, and there's amazing money to be made, but it is hard. If you take nothing else out of this, I want you to take out that you have to execute. If you're not executing, you're on your way out. If you need help, ask for it before it's too late. And that's what I've learned over my 18 years of real estate. I hope that you have avoided most of these. If you see something there, go adjust for it. And we've got some crazy things in real estate coming at us over these next 12 to 18 months with the settlements and the lawsuits and everything. It's going to be interesting. Grab a partner, get a good network of people around you, because this is going to be interesting, and together we're going to get through it. Until next time.